Okay, we're on page 40 of Jason's ukulele book. Page 40 is such a pearl of wisdom. It's I'm almost not allowed to talk about it. So I'm just gonna go off camera here so nobody can. No, I'm kidding. Okay, page 40. 4 fundamental points. This is really like wisdom based upon experience, based upon seeing people make these mistakes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered to write page 40. It's kind of like when you go to McDonald's and it says, caution, hot coffee may be hot, or whatever it says on the cup. There's a reason for stuff like that. There's a reason for it. And there's a reason for page 40. Learn to be smooth. There are several aspects of this. The ones I talk about in the book have to do with playing smoothly, but it occurs to me that it's equally important to be smooth in how you interact with other people, being able to get along with other people, being flexible. One saying I heard once, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken. It's not a proverb or anything, but it almost sounds like a proverb, right? Chuck Smith said that, incidentally. It's really important when you're playing together with other people. And when you're playing a solo, that is what you're doing. You're playing with other people, and you need to understand some fundamental things. So how to be good at it and how to not be good at it. A lot of it is summed up on page 40 here. Before we can go on to level 4, we need to make sure we've got these points nailed here. So hopefully this is an opportunity, if you haven't got these points yet, to receive them gently from me, and not awkwardly, maybe at some point later. So strumming. Some of this is review, but it's important. So strumming. If you can strum, first of all, knowing to have your ukulele in tune is one way to be smooth. Let's just double check that. Having a digital chromatic tuner is a great way to avoid arguments about who's in tune and who's not. Put one of these suckers on your instrument and tune, and then it's like, any questions? Offer a tuner to a friend if you need to. Smooth. Offer it gently. Right? Okay, if you're strumming, here's a smooth strum. It's not overbearing. It's not choppy. It's not, here's what you don't want to do. Ouch. The only reason I say that is because there are people out there that do that. You don't want to be one of them. If you should run into one of them, you want to try to be gentle about it. You could recommend Jason's ukulele book to them and say, check out page 40. But that's really important. Some people just want to slam the ukulele. And sometimes it's because they don't have a very good ukulele. So part of developing a good sense of this is having a good enough uke that you can play it gently. That way you can play it smoothly. That's important. When you're taking a solo, how can you make your solo sound smooth? Well, learn the 6 connection techniques. We made a video about that. That would be an example of smooth. Here's an example of not smooth. They're all the right notes. Not smooth. You're not gonna woo anybody to you. Imagine that you're trying to like woo a romantic interest to you or something. Maybe you're already married to him, like my wife. If I could woo my wife to me, I'm stoked. I definitely don't want to drive her away. This stuff is important, and it's overlooked a lot, or I wouldn't have, again, bothered to write it down. So Make sure you learn those techniques and make sure that you're playing smoothly and that you're interacting smoothly with other musicians. That's an important part of understanding Hawaiian music. Um, okay, page 40, number 2. Let your solo say something. You want to play your solo as if you're trying to communicate. We'll talk more about this and it will become increasingly important in level 4. But at least at this level, you want to be able to make your solo say something. Like if you're going to try to say, I love you, for example, with your ukulele, you say, I love you. I do love this uke. Okay. But if I was going to use the uke to say I love you, it might sound like this. Sound kind of like I love you. I could say it twice. What did I say there? Well, I started off with I love you, and then I made up something that I can't remember what I was thinking in my head even. It was like, truly I do, honey, I love you, honey, I do. Or whatever I was thinking in my head. I was spontaneously thinking the phrasing and playing the phrasing with the timing and the accents as if I was saying it for emphasis. And most of the time I don't, like drop my head on every emphasized word like that because it would be awkward. But to make the point, to make certain that everybody understands, look at a good public speaker. They're constantly doing this, constantly for emphasis. And we want to play that way too. So if I want to say, I love to eat chocolate chip cookies in the morning, I love to eat chocolate chip cookies in the morning. Seems like an odd thing to try to say, but I like chocolate chip cookies in the morning from time to time. You want it to make it say something. If you're just going la 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 la, it doesn't matter how many notes you play, doesn't matter what techniques we teach you in level 4. If you're not beginning to think of it as how to say something, your solos will be meaningless. So don't forget that. Number 3, when you lead, play it loud is how I put it there. It needs to be louder than the background. So there are two aspects of that. One is if you're playing lead, you need to do it in a way that you can hear your lead over somebody else. Like here's an example of if that doesn't happen. Just a quick little background track. Okay. So if that's the background track, you can't even hear this uke. Now maybe I could assure you that this sounds awesome, but you'll never hear it because I'm not loud enough. Now it could be that the background track is just playing too loudly. So truthfully, the downside of a background track is they can't adapt. But if you're playing with another musician, if you can't hear the soloist, back off. Learn to play softer so that the solo comes through. When you're taking the solo, you need to be able to be assertive and guide so that people will balance to you. And hopefully, if they're good musicians, they will in fact balance to you and they won't just swamp you. So those are mistakes that I see people make. So that's number 3. If you can't hear the other guy, you're too loud. If the other guy can't hear you, you're too soft. You need to be listening. That's really important. If you're not listening, nothing in level 4 is going to be useful at all to you. Gotta be listening. You can't just be plowing boldly forward, like where no man has gone before, like where nobody wanted you to go before, maybe. So learn to balance with the other musicians. Learn to play in the group, so you're not like the obnoxious player. Or the chicken player that everybody wishes they would play out more. Okay, number 4, lead, follow, or get out of the way. You want to know when to jump in and take a solo if you're up to the task of doing it, and you want to know when it's an inappropriate time to do that. In a conversation, it's kind of the same way. You could have something brilliant to say, but if you can't figure out the right time to say it, you're going to offend everybody with your inappropriate interjection into the conversation. And then it doesn't matter if what you said was brilliant. You missed your cue. So some good examples are during an intro to the song, maybe before the words have started, and it's doing just a little chord vamp like this. This is a great time. Then the words start. And you don't play a little solo doing the words unless the words have a little space in between. Like if the words stop here, you can put in a tasty little lick like that. This maybe might make more sense if there were a background track going on at the same time, but maybe this makes the point even better. And when the words are going on, I'm not going to take a solo unless there's a stop. And then the words might continue on again in the song. So you can play in all those little spaces, and that's great. By all means do so. And then if they say, take a solo, then you've got a chance. And then know when to cut out. It's like surfing a wave. There's a time to paddle in, there's a time to stand up, there's a time to make your bottom turn, there's a time to make your cuts, and there's a time to get off of that wave. And paddle out and get another. Whether you surf or not, hopefully at least you understand the analogy there that's going on. So in getting better, everything after this is kind of based on these concepts to a degree. It's not about playing more notes. It's really not. A lot of people make that mistake. They want to learn more scales. Teach me more scales. It's like, I can teach you more scales. That's great. We'll go through Hal Leonard's 1,000 Ukulele Scales book. But if you don't know how to use those scales, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like if you said, teach me more vocabulary. It's like, I could teach you more vocabulary, but if you don't have any sense of direction when you're speaking, if you don't know when and how to interject your thought into a conversation, if you don't know how to emphasize something to make certain that people understand what you're saying, it doesn't matter what your vocabulary is. So don't mistake more notes for better, because that's not necessarily the case. There are people that play a lot of notes, but the reason those notes sound good is because they've got the 4 principles right here. And if they don't, all those 4 notes just as more of sounding bad. So I hope you take these things to heart. I hope this is useful, passing on that wisdom to you. That'll keep you out of trouble. And hopefully you'll make more friends and have more fun all at the same time. And that's what we're trying to do, play an ukulele after all, right? All right. C chord for the ending. Aloha.